Today's episode, by the way, it's on Thursday, September 18th. It's a Just Baseball show, and today's episode is all about the American League West for the most part. We will start by headline hopping a little bit. I do want to highlight Shohei Ohtani's Tuesday night in LA against the Philadelphia Phillies, but a lot of it is American League based. A couple of injury notes. Roman Anthony, how have the Red Sox fared since he has been out? Yordan Alvarez, what's it looking like? And then we get into the AL West conversation with our friends, Lyle Goldstein, TJ Matthewston of the Marine Layer Pod. That'll be with Peter. Peter, who we brought to you by?
Make it legendary with BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. Before we get to the injuries, before we dive into the American League West and the rise of the Seattle Mariners, winners of 10 in a row, should we talk about the National League Rookie of the Year? Because Cubs fans are starting to come back and say, hey, Peter, remember when you said Cade Horton was not the rightful favorite to win Rookie of the Year? Egg on my face. Cade Horton's odds just continue to rise. Now we're looking at minus 200. So instead of minus 150 at a 60% implied probability, we're approaching 70% and climbing as he continues to toss 5 inning, 6 inning, 1 run performances like he's rolling out of bed. It's easy for him. And his competitors are not exactly holding their weight right now. So yeah, it's looking more and more apparent that Cade Horton is the rightful Rookie of the Year. We'll see.
Quick question. Do you feel like a terrible person?
Not at all. I stand on everything I said in the moment.
Okay.
In the moment, Cade Horton was the favorite.
Yeah.
And I said, no, sir.
Yeah.
That's just not right. There is no precedent for a pitcher who's thrown as few of innings as he did this year. And moving forward, I thought the Cubs were going to continue to limit him to 5 inning spurts, which is exactly what they did. And it had nothing to do with his performance at a 2.8 ERA or about what he was at the time. It really boiled down to the fact that there wasn't a precedent for guys throwing that few of innings compared to Drake Baldwin, who at the time had a 2.6 B WAR. Isaac Collins had a 2.6 B WAR. And Cade Horton was at 1.1. I just thought the hype was going too far. But here's the thing. Since that rant, Drake Baldwin has now a 2.5 B WAR.
Wow.
Isaac Collins has fallen to a 2.3. Cade Horton has risen to a 1.9. Isaac Collins' OPS since that rant is in the high 600s. Drake Baldwin has fallen off a cliff. He's got an OPS in the low 500s since that rant. So yes, at the time, I think I was spot on. But it is aged like milk. I don't regret what I said, but things have changed. And now there's no real precedent still for a pitcher in Cade Horton's shoes winning Rookie of the Year. But when his competitors are not holding up their end of the bargain, it starts to make the argument for Cade Horton at a 2.66 ERA, even though it's only 115 innings, more powerful.
The National League Rookie of the Year is starting to look like a pool noodle fight to a certain extent.
Kinda. But
They've all been good, but it's not like
doesn't
there's a great player in this National League Rookie of the Year conversation.
I
And I'm
disagree.
talking great player on like the Kurtz
Yes.
lens.
Like
Yeah.
Cade Horton is a great player.
He's a
It had
great player.
nothing to do with him, the player. It had to do with the precedent of a Skeens was like the last guy to be in the 130, 140 inning mark. He pitched to a 1.96 ERA.
Right. Like the fact that we went from Skeens and Merrill to the very next year having it be Cade Horton, Drake Baldwin, Isaac Collins. Mizorowski was the odds on favorite after two starts in like July.
Exactly. It's just been a market where a guy who doesn't have a long track record this season can win it because of the rest of his competitors. I mean, Matt Shaw has had a good second half too, and he's vaulted his way back up. But Matt Shaw is not having a good year if we look at the totality of the season. So it's going to be Cade Horton kind of by default. And again, what I mean is the precedent, not how good he has been in those 115 innings. But we're probably going to have a pitcher who has less than a 9K per nine, which means he's not striking out a batter every inning. Like Skeens was around 11
Yeah.
in 125 innings. And that's your rookie of the year.
Great pitcher. Yeah. I take it back that there's no great player in this. Great pitcher. I think Drake Baldwin is a great player. I think Isaac Collins is a very good player, but this is a little pool noodle fight adjacent right now in the National League. So, yeah, I understand why it aged like milk. I wouldn't beat yourself up about it, but I
I'm
know
not.
Cubs fans will beat you up plenty about it.
That's fine. And it's a fun back and forth. I'm totally fine wearing that one. But what I will say is at the time, everything I said was correct. And now I thought Drake Baldwin and Isaac Collins would at least maintain what they were doing. I didn't say, oh, they're going to be so good. I didn't say one of them is going to separate. I just said
Right.
at that time, there's no reason. But now there clearly is a reason because both of them have taken a big step back. And Cade Horton just continues to go 5 innings shutout or 5 innings, 1 run ball like it's easy.
The start log for Cade Horton since the All Star break: 5 2/3 shutout, 6 1/3 shutout, 5 innings shutout, 5 2/3 shutout, 5 2/3 1 run, 1 hit, 2 2/3 1 run, 6 scoreless, 5 innings a 2 run ball, 5 no hit, 6 1/3 a 1 run ball, 5 innings a 1 run ball.
It's incredible.
That's an absurd game log since the All Star break.
And when you do something like that, you can win an award in this rookie National League Rookie of the Year environment
Of
where there
course.
aren't hitters taking a big step. The hitters at the top of the market are slightly above average hitters this year with decent defense. You can win an award like that. So I'm
Of
not
course.
congratulating Cade Horton yet. Of course, anything can happen, but we only have about 11 or 12 games left. I just don't see how either of them are now going to overtake Horton because he's automatic.
I understand. I don't see how anybody in the National League is going to overtake Shohei Ohtani at this point because Shohei Ohtani has already created a brand new 50-50 club. Shohei Ohtani became the first guy in Major League history last year to hit 50 homers and steal 50 bases over the course of a given season. And now he becomes the first player in the history of Major League Baseball to hit 50 homers and strike out 50 batters in the same Major League season. He did it on Tuesday night against the Philadelphia Phillies in a start where he threw 5 no-hit innings. He was lifted. Justin Robleski came on. Robleski got pounded, got 1 out, 5 hits, 5 runs. But Ohtani, 5 no-hit, 1 walk, and 5 punch outs. Ohtani threw 68 pitches. And oh, by the way, he homered in the eighth inning off David Robertson. It was a solo shot for his 50th homer of the year. And the final score in that game, the Phillies 9, the Dodgers 6. That is the greatest tungsten arm O'Doyle of all time. I know he had plenty of them in Anaheim.
Yeah, are you sure the
Nothing
Angels?
comes close to that. He created his own club. He hit the 50th home run of his career to, I think, tie the game at the bottom of the eighth, right? Was it to tie the game or to make it a 1 run game? I think it was to tie it.
Yeah, I think it was to tie it too,
Yeah,
if I
sorry,
remember
hit the
correctly.
50th homer of his season to
Yeah.
tie the game at the bottom of the eighth, and then the Phillies tack on 3 in the top of the ninth, and the Dodgers lose the freaking ball game.
Quick history segment here. I thought it was a really cool stat that we tweeted out. Shohei Ohtani, with his 50th home run this season, now has the top two single season home run records in Dodger history.
Hmm.
Last year he hit 54. This year he hit 50. No
What was the
Dodger had
previous high?
no Dodger had ever hit 50 before. Guess. Who do you think it is? I think the five others, because it's not like this is an easy record. This is the LA Dodgers we're talking about. They
Right.
don't have a bunch of scrubs who only got to 27 or something. There was plenty of prolific power seasons coming out of LA in their history, but Ohtani is the first to hit 50, and then he did it again in his
You
first two
have
years.
you have what, 5 others that have hit 40?
You have a bunch of guys who have hit 40,
Okay.
but there are only 3 who have hit above 45, and then the 2 below are at 43. I'm curious if you can name any of the 5.
Cody Bellinger?
Cody Bellinger hit 47 in 2019. There are 2 guys above him.
his MVP season. Um, did Piazza do it in a Dodger uniform?
He hit 40. He's not in the top five, but that's a good answer.
Okay. Did
I'll give you a
with
hint. I'll give you a
yeah.
hint. One of them is in 1956. This is number five. So think of
One of them is
old Dodger power hitters.
1956.
Brooklyn Dodgers. This one might be tough.
Yeah, I
Duke Snyder.
yeah, okay. So Duke was the name coming to my mind there. All right. Shouldn't have given
So
it away that quickly.
sorry. You
It's okay.
have two guys between 2000 and 2005. Two outfielders, one third baseman.
2000 and 2005, one third baseman. Was Adrian Beltre the third baseman?
Adrian Beltre was the third baseman. He hit 48 back in 2004.
Okay. And then two outfielders
Yes.
in the early 2000s.
Yep.
Okay. Can I give you um not Sean Green.
Sean Green.
Really?
49 home runs in 2001. You're missing one more.
That's big.
Give you a hint.
I don't know. Give it
I,
to me.
I think he should be a Hall of Famer.
He should be a Hall of Famer.
Yes. Because it was never really proven he took steroids, and he vehemently
Oh,
denies it.
Sheffield. Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield, back in 2000, hit 43 home runs. So
Wow.
Ohtani has two of the single season home run records in Dodger history in his first two seasons with the team.
I feel good about my answers there. And I also feel really good about Shohei Ohtani. I feel terrible that the Dodgers lost the game, but again, that is the Tungsten Armo Doyle of all time.
Do you actually feel bad about that? I don't feel bad about that at all. I thought it was electric. I'm so glad the Phillies won. Like, I think that's the funniest thing ever. Like, when I know it happens to be just anti Dodgers, and I don't mean it anti Dodgers. I do mean that when a guy has an unbelievable performance or sets a record and his team still blows it, like when Yamamoto threw 8 2/3 of no hit innings
And
and
they
then the
lost that
Orioles
game.
won. And then this one, Otani hits 50 again, and here comes the Phillies. I think it's funny.
I mean,
It's
that's like
entertainment at
win of
the
the
end of the
year
day.
for Baltimore, and that's like one of the wins of the year for Philly,
Yeah,
but that is demoralizing for the
I know.
Dodgers.
It's hilarious.
I don't think it's that funny, but I understand where you're coming from in terms of hilarity. Let's talk about another team sliding a little bit right now. Roman Anthony has been out for a minute here. Anthony has been sidelined with injury after he was amazing to begin his major league career. Roman Anthony was the leadoff man for the Boston Red Sox, and he was stirring the drink offensively. But Roman is currently on the shelf with an oblique strain. He hit the shelf on September 3rd. Since then, what have the Boston Red Sox done, Peter Apple?
I just can't believe how impactful a 21-year-old is to a team.
Yeah.
And I think this goes to show how good Roman Anthony is and how much he impacted the Red Sox once he took hold of that leadoff spot. Batting first this year, he's slashing 336, 439, 564 for an OPS over 1,000. If we look at from June 8th, his debut, until September 2nd, his last game before he went down with an oblique injury, the Red Sox were the eighth best offense in baseball by on base percentage, 323. Since then, they've now dropped to 301. Their WRC plus 104 with Roman, without him, 83. Now, it is a short sample, and it's not all on Roman Anthony, but clearly, him being the leadoff hitter for the Red Sox made them such a better lineup. Now, it certainly doesn't help that in that span since Roman has gone down, Ceddanne Rafaela is hitting 086. He has 3 hits in that span, all singles, for a negative 34 WRC plus. Alex Bregman is hitting 200 with a 50 WRC plus. Nate Lowe was fun for a second, not so much anymore. Even Jaron Duran has been at a 102 WRC plus. So it's not, again, all on Roman, but I'm sure the Red Sox lineup feels a little bit more confidently. Maybe Bregman is pitched a little bit differently if Roman Anthony is on first base versus right now, the leadoff guy isn't necessarily getting on first base and the offense is stalling.
Yep.
right? In those 11 games, they're 4-7. They just lost a tough game to the A's on Tuesday, where they only scored one run against that A's pitching staff after another great start by Connolly early.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to bring this up is it's understandable if a team goes through a slide like the Yankees losing Aaron Judge, right? It hasn't really happened, funny enough, to the Astros with losing a guy like Yordan Alvarez, but Shohei Ohtani, you know, if the Phillies were to lose Schwarber, what happened to the Cubs when Tucker started to struggle or
Mhm.
PCA? Like those are the type of guys you think that if they go down with an injury, your team then goes 4-7 and their WRC plus drops from 104 to 83. Not a 21-year-old outfielder who made his debut 3 months ago.
But
And
this is
that's why I
different.
wanted to bring it up
Yeah.
because it's not so drastic. I do think the Red Sox are going to be okay. They have a great team. This is more to highlight how important Roman Anthony is than to crush the Red Sox because there are other guys going through spells, but this is how good this young guy is. Two
Sure.
straight months of an OPS over 900 in July and August.
Sure. Yeah. Roman Anthony was as important to the Boston Red Sox as any hitter in their lineup. And that is bizarre to say because of what you just laid out. Like the situation would dictate that Roman would be the fourth most important hitter in the Red Sox lineup because he's 21 years old and he's
Yeah.
2 months into his big league career. False.
Yeah.
He was the most important. He was more important than Bregman. He was more important than Durant. Like really
Yeah.
anybody in that lineup. As soon as Devers was gone, it was the Roman Anthony show, and it was on him to kickstart the offense, and he did it
And he did.
pretty much every night. There are enough good things around the Boston Red Sox to not be too concerned.
Yeah.
But if Roman Anthony can somehow maneuver his way back over the final week and a half and be ready for the beginning of October, that's everything for the Boston Red Sox. And that is everything for that lineup in particular. There is something to me about running into an outfield of three left handed bats. And I thought when the Red Sox were going at their best against a right handed starter, their outfield consisted of Duran, Roman, and Wilyer Abreu.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying to face as a right handed starter. As a lefty, you piece it together. Sadon can play center. Somebody gets a day off. But, dude, if I'm a right handed starter and I'm looking at three of the top five hitters in that lineup being Roman, Duran, and Wilyer Abreu, I'm thinking, what can I do? Like, who do I need to pay off to get through 6 innings of 3-run ball here?
And then when they do face a righty, they are a heavy platoon team. So they go Romy Gonzalez, Rob Refsnyder, like
Yeah, when they
Trevor
face a
Story can
lefty.
it,
Yeah.
right? So whenever they would face that left-handed starter, they were still a good offense. But
Yes.
you're totally right. Against a righty, they were also a nightmare. I mean, this Red Sox team was so deep, but then you lose Willier, and especially now losing Roman Anthony. I still think the Red Sox are a good team even without Roman. But another reason I wanted to highlight this, not just to shower praise on Roman, is to say that the Red Sox in the playoffs are not nearly as scary without Roman in the
Of
lineup.
course.
Right. With Roman in a wide open American League, they can make a run to the World Series.
Of course.
Without him, I just have my doubts. Now, anything is possible. All you got to do is get in. But if we're projecting out, seeing the difference, and if those other guys who have soured in Roman's absence don't pick it up, yeah, they're not going to make much noise. They just don't have the offense to compete here.
Yeah. I hear you. And you know what? Here's to hoping that Roman can get back to somewhat close to full health and we see him at some point.
I want to see him so bad because watching him play and just, again, it's a short couple of months span, but he just looks already like a pro. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like his heartbeat just moves slower. I would
Yeah.
love to see what that looks like in the postseason because I
Yes.
don't think that heartbeat is going to elevate. I think it's going to stay at a consistent level. And he was going to rake
Yep.
at 21. This
He
is such
was
an exciting
he
young
was on the
player.
very, very short list of breakout stars, like breakout
Yeah.
candidates in the postseason this year.
He was so good that we weren't even including him in like rookie talks
I know.
because it's like, well, he's better.
And like he wasn't catching Kurtz from a counting perspective, so he wasn't a rookie of the year
Yeah.
candidate, and he also like was better than every other rookie.
Yeah, so it's like everyone's focusing on Carlos Narvaez. So I was like, Roman Anthony's by far the best rookie on this team, and
Of
Carlos
course.
Narvaez is a rookie of the year contender. That doesn't take anything away from him. It's just like this guy's a different level.
Yeah. Another guy that I really want to see in the postseason here, and I just don't know if we're going to see it in the midst of a year from hell, is Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah, I don't.
Yordan Alvarez scored a run. He just crossed the plate standing up. It wasn't a slide or anything like that. He scored a run standing up. When he hit the plate, looked like his ankle slipped a little bit or his foot slipped a little bit, and he rolled up his ankle. So he went hobbling over like quickly to the first base dugout. He ran into the Astros dugout. Apparently, post game, Chandler Rome of the Athletic saw Yordan in a walking boot and with crutches after the game. Joe Espada spoke on Wednesday, and he said Alvarez, after imaging, has a quote pretty significant ankle sprain, and that he might miss significant time. That is such a gut punch. There's nobody aside from maybe Harper that you would rather have in your lineup in the postseason at this point. Yordan Alvarez is one of the best postseason performers that we have in Major League Baseball, and we might be robbed of, frankly, a whole year of Yordan Alvarez this season.
I love what Arm was saying. I think it was maybe like 2 weeks ago or something, where it's not just about Jordan's production at the plate, which is prolific. It's his presence sitting on deck. Like a pitcher just looks over to the on deck circle and they see a mammoth of a human being
Yep.
lurking, staring at you. Like that puts the fear in you for even that hitter. It might even affect some Bregman at bats just because he brings such an intense feeling to the field. Like you just know that doesn't matter if it's a left-handed pitcher. Ask Robbie Ray if that matters. Ask all the lefties who have just been brought out there to become a pitching machine against Yordan in the playoffs. Lefty, like Chapman comes in against Yordan. You think Yordan cares? Not for a second. Bring it harder. He's going to hit it harder. He's unbelievable. So to lose him, it's tough. And I've learned better than to doubt the Astros. They can figure it out. But when
It's harder to figure it out with no Yordan and no Kyle Tucker.
and no Bregman and Altuve's got a foot issue too.
Yep.
So the core that made the Astros inevitable, two aren't there and two are injured. Can they figure it out without him? Anything's possible. If I'm projecting it out,
No.
no. No, they're towards the bottom, unfortunately.
You're going to hear much more about the American League West in a moment with our friends Lyle and TJ from the Marine Layer Pod. But before that, Yordan Alvarez, hand inflammation and ankle sprain, that could have you thinking about life insurance. And that is why I'm going to trust my friends at Ethos Life Insurance. Okay? Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not in months. There's no complicated process. It is 100% online. No medical exam required. All you got to do, answer a few health questions. Get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. You can get up to $3 million in coverage, some policies as low as $2 a day, billed monthly. Ethos is a trustworthy company that disrupts the traditional life insurance industry, so protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/justbaseball. That's ethos, ethos.com/justbaseball. Application times may vary, rates may vary. Time for Peter and the Marine Layer fellas to talk about the Red Hot Mariners and the AL West.
10 in a row, 10 in a row, 10 in a row. The Seattle Mariners have won 10 straight as we are recording this, and it is the perfect time to welcome on the Marine Layer podcast, guys. That's TJ and Lyle, the Mariners podcast here on the Just Baseball Media Network. Gentlemen, how does it feel? We're in first place. I say we. I feel like I'm a part of Mariners Nation. I got a 3-1 ticket for them to win the division, but you guys are the experts. I can't wait to break down what has changed during this win streak, where the Mariners are going. predictions for the rest of the season. We're going to talk about the entire American League West race, but we're going to do a deep dive here, especially into Seattle. Gentlemen, how are we feeling right now?
It's so much more fun when they do this. I just wish they would do this more often. We've had our winning streaks before, but not in a time as important as they've had right now.
Lyle,
Not
how are you
they
feeling?
didn't have a 14 game winning streak when we were doing this podcast, but they've had some hot streaks before. Not in a playoff spot when it matters like this.
Lyle, does this feel different?
Yeah, it does. And I will say, way to not hedge your bet, Peter. Way to stick it out and way to hold the ticket because now it's paying dividends. I would say it feels different because this feels like the most complete roster they've had since 2001. And when I say since 2001, that's really in our lifetime as a Mariners fan because we were 3, 4 years old when they won 116. I don't have memories of that year, but this lineup that they're running out right now is the deepest one we've seen. So yeah, it just feels more real than it ever has.
So I want to talk to you guys and really ask about the season in its entirety because I follow you guys on social media, obviously, as all Mariners fans should. And generally, if you just want to keep up with anything Seattle baseball, these guys are the place to go. At Marine Layer Pod, TikTok, Instagram, you can find them on all platforms, Twitter, both of these guys. You can find the links in the episode description. They do such a good job with their recaps and breakdowns. But from following you guys over the season, what a roller coaster it's been. I mean, I've seen Lyle scream into the camera because of how bad the losing streak was on the road. I've seen TJ do something similar. And then when things are going well, you guys are over the moon, and deservedly so, because when this team is clicking on all cylinders, the rotation looks like the patented Mariners rotation, and they're hitting like this. It looks like the best team in baseball. But there are times where I think we can all agree it feels like they're the worst team in baseball. An ultimate roller coaster. Lyle, I want to start with you. How has this season gone? Just wax poetically about the 2025 Seattle Mariners, if you could, and then we'll throw it over to TJ.
I don't think there's a better way to describe it than roller coaster. And it goes all the way back to the offseason. When the two of us tab the offseason they had as the worst one in the history of the franchise, when they're right on the doorstep, and your whole winner is adding Donovan Solano for $3.5 million and then taking a flyer back on Jorge Polanco to have a bounce back season, which that worked. And shout out to them on that. But there was just a lack of urgency, it felt like, all winter. So it started there when people are already a little down in the dumps going into the season. But you're right. It starts from having a great April, and then they start to tail off. And then you do things like run Leody Taveras out there for 30 games, who I think, as we still currently sit, has been the worst player in Major League Baseball by WAR. And then they go on a hot streak, and then they tail off toward the All-Star break, and then they get serious at the deadline, and then they show that they have struggles on the road, and now they're ripping off 10 in a row as we're sitting here recording. There's no real better way to describe it than roller coaster because it's come from so many different places. It's been the offense ups and downs at times. It's been the pitching ups and downs at times. And now, if you have to pick a time for them to quote unquote peak, mid to late September is a pretty good time to be hitting your stride and playing your best baseball.
I love it. TJ, can you try to describe what the lowest of the lows have felt like during this season and compare it to the highest of highs right now?
There's two low points I can think of off the top of my head. First low point would be pre-trade deadline. They got swept by the Diamondbacks in Arizona. Josh Naylor, of all people, walks them off with a grand slam on a Wednesday. They have an off day the next day. And they're under 500 at this point. And Lau and I look at each other and are like, this is the make or break point right now. Whether this all is going to come crumbling down around them, whether you trade people away, whether you fire the manager and the general manager, and you start over because what you've done has not worked. You fired your manager last year. You gave your vote of confidence in this roster, and it's blown up in your face, and it's all over. It's done right now. So that was number one. So clearly they bounced back from that because they put themselves in a position at the trade deadline to go then add more players. But then we have the moment of nearly 2 weeks ago after game one in Atlanta, and Chris Sale carves them up. They'd lost 5 in a row at this point. Their lead on a wild card spot was down to half a game. And Lau and I are sitting here looking at this roster and saying, this roster is way too good to be playing like this. If they can't make it with this roster and this pitching staff, then you got to blow it up because it's not working. The voices in the room aren't working. The leadership's not working. Whatever you got to do, you got to try something different because it has not worked. You'd have one playoff appearance in 10 seasons. And since that point, Peter, they have not lost. And they're only one game behind the Yankees now, might I add.
So describe this high of a feeling where you said, since you said that, they haven't lost. Like that has to be just a complete 180 of emotions.
The longest winning streak we've ever experienced in our lives is 14 games when they last made the playoffs in 2022. They're creeping up on it now. Outside of these Astros games this weekend, until they play the Dodgers in the final 3 games of the season, they should win every remaining game. They're the better baseball team than each of these next 2 games against the Royals. I don't care that Cole Reagans is starting tonight as we're recording here on Wednesday. The Astros will be tough, but then they get to play the Rockies. I mean, come on. If they don't beat the Rockies by 6 runs in every game, then what are we talking about? Like, it has gotten to the point where you feel as confident as you could possibly feel in a team. And then they backed it up, given that they've won by over 5 runs on average during this win streak.
So, TJ, I want to stay with you on this one just because we were talking pre-recording about this. You mentioned back in 2023 how they were in a similar situation, but down the stretch, they folded like a lawn chair. What do you think the main difference is between that 2023 team and this team right now, and why you feel so confident in the 2025 version?
Because this team is better. They have better starters. They have more mature starters. It was a lot of the same players in that 2023 rotation, but the difference is Brian Wu is now one of the 10 best pitchers in Major League Baseball. In September of that season, he had an ERA well over 5, and he could not really pitch out of the 4th inning because every time he'd face a lefty or he'd face the order the second time through, he'd get shelled. And it was the same thing with Bryce Miller. And the lineup that year, despite I believe them scoring more runs than this lineup will score, was very inconsistent because they struck out so much and they could not make up for it in other areas. Therefore, when they went and matched up in big games against the Rangers and the Astros, they were tied for first place with 10 games to go. Everyone was in a playoff spot. They had, 7 games against, or 6 games against out of 10 games left, they had 2 series against the Rangers, 1 series against the Astros, and they won 3 of those games and bowed themselves out of playoff position. This team, though, if they were put in the same situation with those 2 same teams right now, would probably go 7-3 or 8-2 in those 10 games because they're just better.
Lyle, he mentioned the 2023 team struck out a lot all the time. And I remember that very, very clearly. It was, it wasn't just like the normal strikeout, right? Where you put up a good at bat and you just end up going down and sitting back on the bench. It felt like we were swinging at sliders like Javier Baez. Like it just didn't look good. An example of a player who exemplifies the 2025 Mariners, I think the best. Now you could say, well, of course, Cal Raleigh is unbelievable. And he, of course, exemplifies this, track towards winning, and Julio Rodriguez's second half. But talking about the lack of strikeouts, Jorge Polanco, during this win streak, is striking out about 12% of the time. This entire year, he's done such a good job of limiting the strikeouts, hitting for extra bases, putting up good at-bats, and he's kind of the unsung hero when it comes to talking about the Mariners. What makes Jorge Polanco so important to this Mariners team?
Isn't it crazy the turnaround he's had? This is a guy who's cut his strikeout rate from last year in half. He was punching out almost 30% of the time last year. For the year, it's now down to 15. And I think he's so important because he is just so chill, steady Eddie. He does not let the moment phase him. Julio, for example, as incredible as he is, like sometimes I think he tries to hit the ball a mile in these big situations, and it can lead to some strikeouts. Jorge Polanco's numbers in high leverage are through the roof, and what he's done in the second half, since he's really gotten healthy, because by the way, we've talked about this idea of roller coasters. Jorge Polanco's season's been a big roller coaster too, with the ups and the downs, especially in the middle of the year and battling some injuries. But what he's done in the second half has been incredible. I mean, he is just on everything. He is crushing the baseball. He's hitting in high leverage. He gives you professional at bats. And I think he's been the most underappreciated Mariner of the year. Because, of course, who's going to get all the limelight? For good reason. Cal, Julio, Randy, etc. And they've gotten it. But this team is not where they are without Jorge Polanco, not only giving them serious stability in the middle to bottom part of that order, right out of the sixth spot usually, but he's crushing the baseball. And his numbers have been absolutely unbelievable. This is probably going to end, if everything holds par, as the best offensive season he's had in his career, which is crazy. Because you think about the year he had in Minnesota where he hit 33 homers. And by OPS plus, WRC plus, this is going to surpass that.
The thing
And
I
Peter,
find,
it's probably the most complete too. He doesn't have a weakness this year. Hitting righty, hitting lefty, hitting against righties, hitting against lefties, low leverage, middle leverage, high leverage, road, home, doesn't matter. It's all just production across the board.
so I'm wondering if you guys can shed a light on this. I don't know the answer. Jorge Polanco last year with Seattle, right, put up an overall OPS below 700. It was not a great first year in T-Mobile. And we talk about T-Mobile all the time, how it's the hardest place to hit in for batters, right? Teoscar Hernandez has said this, that once he left, like the batter's eye, it's weird. It's also a huge ballpark. You know, you guys are called the Marine Layer podcast because there is that marine layer that makes the air thick and it's tough to get the ball to fly out of the ballpark, which again makes Cal Raleigh's season so incredible. The fact that he has the most home runs by any switch hitter and tied Ken Griffey Jr. But the main question I still have for Jorge Polanco is how he improved at home. Because last season, again, OPS under 700, but 609 OPS at home. This year, he's a better hitter at T-Mobile than he is on the road. His OPS is above 850. Why is that? Has he said that he figured something out? Is it just a coincidence based on the pitching matchups that he's just seen at home? What is it? Why is he so now prolific at home, raising his OPS by 250 points? I'll open that up to either of you if either of you have a good answer to that one.
I think it was two things. Number one, he probably had an initial shock at the beginning of last year as he's spending a season with a different team for the first time in 16 years. So that's going to be a bit of a culture shock for him as he's adjusting to that. On top of that, Peter, he was not healthy at all last year. He had knee problems throughout the year last year, was really detrimental to him in the field, trying to play second base. Didn't work out all that well. That's what bugged him in May and June of this year. I just don't really think he was totally healthy, and that's what sapped his offensive production. But last year, as Polanco got a little bit more comfortable, he was actually somewhat productive in the second half. And this year, as he has gotten healthier in this second half as well, he's been even better and has been able to be the best version of himself.
Yeah, it's so funny that we've spent so much of the year talking about exactly this, like why the sudden snap for Polo in year two in Seattle compared to year one. And I don't know if it's something that's totally quantifiable. It's going to be something that's up to interpretation for a lot of people. And that's what we've talked through a bit. I think TJ's right. The two main points that he hit on would be the two reasons that I'd look to, which goes outside of just being able to look things up on Fangraphs or Baseball Savant. And you try to think about the human side of it at times is when you're Jorge Polanco and you've been in the same org since you were 16, and all of a sudden you're playing in a new city with a new drive to work, new teammates, new clubhouse, new location for spring training. Like, how much does that really take a toll on you? Especially because he wasn't a free agent that chose to go somewhere else. It was a trade. He had to go play for another team. How much of that paired with the injuries and the tough ballpark conditions to hit in wore on him in year one? And then in year two, when he comes back, he was used to it all. And that was just a little bit of an easier adjustment. The truthful answer is I don't know if there's a way if it's quantifiable or not. But clearly, the thing I think we can all agree on is he looks so much more comfortable health-wise and just from at bat to at bat in the play at the plate in year two than he did in year one in Seattle.
Being comfortable is so important. We talk about it a lot with, big time free agents signing with a new team and routinely disappointing in year one. I mean, we've seen it with Anthony Santander with the Blue Jays. We've seen it with Lindor with the Mets. There are numerous examples of that. Even Juan Soto struggled for his standards, right, coming over to the Mets, and now he's put together a 40-30 season, and he's unbelievable because he's Juan Soto. But again, there are plenty of examples. And it can happen at the trade deadline where one guy just instantly becomes comfortable. like Josh Naylor. He's become an absolute fan favorite in the month of September. It hasn't even been his best stretch with the Mariners, and he's still putting up a 130 WRC plus. He's striking out 14% of the time. He's been awesome. But one guy who has played with Seattle before, who you'd think would make an easy transition, which is probably why the Mariners felt it was okay to part with a guy like Tyler Locklear, is to go get Geno Suarez, who hits a ton of home runs with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then he comes over to you guys, and it's been a struggle. And even during this win streak where it feels like everything is clicking, and everything really is, except Geno Suarez, who has a 36% strikeout rate in the month of September with a 44 WRC plus. Like, you guys have so much to be happy about that I really just wanted to touch, because this seems like the only negative you can bring right now to the table when talking about the Seattle Mariners. So my question, we'll start with you, Lyle, is what are your expectations for him for the rest of the year? I guess that's where we'll start, just expectations.
My expectation is at some point he's going to be the one that carries the offense for a little bit because you guys know it. TJ and I know it. Baseball fans know it. This is how it goes with Geno. He is an extremely streaky player. He has his very, very cold streaks where his at-bats can be tough watches, and then he'll have streaks where he'll carry an offense for a point in time. And yeah, you're right. The overall sample of Geno's second stint back in Seattle since the trade deadline so far in a nutshell has been disappointing. Would I take the trade back? No, because I think it absolutely sparked a fire under this team to see how serious the organization was about going for it, how beloved he is in that clubhouse. And with a team that is likely going to be finding its way into the playoffs here in 25, I feel like Geno's time is coming, whether it's in the Astros series this weekend or whether it's going to be a big moment come October. At some point, I think Geno Suarez is going to be the reason the Mariners win an extremely important baseball game, or maybe a couple of them, because we know he can get really hot. So I would say my expectation is, while we'd love to have him hitting better right now, at some point there is an internal confidence, at least on my end, and I think on a lot of people's too, that he is going to figure this out.
So I totally agree with you, Lyle. I'm optimistic about him. We know this. He goes through these streaks, and so far with Seattle, he's in one of those cold ones, but in an instant, he can heat back up. TJ, do you share that optimism, or is there a little part of you that's maybe a little bit more pessimistic, or are you full bore and you're even more optimistic than Lyle is?
The only thing you could get pessimistic about is that there's just not a lot of time left in the season, including postseason. He could be cold enough where he does not contribute for the rest of the season. The thing is, though, Peter, this lineup is so deep that they can have him struggle because literally everyone else around him is hitting, and that is why you build a deep lineup. So when guys are cold, and we've seen cold streaks from all sorts of guys while this entire lineup's been together. Cal's had a point where he's cold. Polanco, not really. Naylor's had a stretch where he's been cold in this. Dominic Canzone has been good, but he hasn't been on fire the entire time this lineup's been together. But one by one, there's always been these pockets of hitters that have been able to carry the lineup and been able to offset the fact that a guy like Geno has just not been very good, frankly, in the month you've had him. The plus is, I don't think it's going to take much to get him going. Hit a couple home runs, get some favorable matchups on the mound. The Colorado Rockies coming into town next week. Sounds pretty good to me.
So speaking about the Rockies are not very good. Clearly.
No.
They give up a lot of home runs.
Mm.
You have a guy tracking for the most home runs in a season by a Seattle Mariner with only Ken Griffey. And now the hitter with the most home runs ever by a switch hitter. And the debate for American League MVP rages on. Now, if you look at the sportsbook odds on BetMGM, you'll see that they still make Aaron Judge a clear favorite, right at about minus 600. So what they're saying to us is it's pretty much wrapped up at this point. But here's the thing. You go over to the Fangraphs and you look at some of the numbers. And yes, Aaron Judge, wide gap in OPS. Pretty sizable gap in WRC+, which of course encapsulates T-Mobile Park versus Yankee Stadium. It's a park-adjusted stat. Cal, though, has the lead in home runs and RBIs and even in stolen bases, which is interesting. And of course, Cal's defense helps. But we put together a total metric, which we can look at Fangraphs WAR. 8.8 to 8.4 is not that much of a gap. Even if you look at the definition, how they calculate WAR, they say within a standard deviation of about 0.5, it's really not that much of a gap. So where are you guys at? American League MVP, because it's a good argument if the WAR is this close and the Mariners win the division and the Yankees don't. That is a real thing. Where are you guys at?
I would say this. It is disappointing to see the odds so far in Judge's favor with just a couple weeks to go. And this is not to take anything away from a guy who may be the best hitter of this generation and is having an absolutely unbelievable year. Believe me, yes, despite being Mariners fans, we know that Judge's WRC plus is over 200 and he's leading baseball in OPS again, and he's been absolutely incredible. But if you're going to have Cal Raleigh hoist this award and crown him the MVP, I think it's going to take baseball writers to look at things that are often not quantifiable. And that's sometimes hard to do, not just because Judge has the East Coast favoritism in his favor, but because you have to look at things that aren't just the OPS and just the WAR and just the on-base percentage. What I think it comes down to for me is how much different would this entire rotation look if Cal Raleigh wasn't their catcher? Every single one of these guys raves about how much they love throwing at Cal Raleigh, how much better Cal makes them on a daily basis, how hard he pushes them, the standard he sets, how good he is behind the plate. You can't quantify this with WAR, but if Mitch Garver was the starting catcher all year and you just didn't have Cal Raleigh, which is kind of the idea of the most valuable player, take the player off the team and how do you look? Does Logan Gilbert have half a WAR less than he's got right now? Does Brian Wu have half a WAR less, a win less than he has right now? Does George Kirby have half a win less than he has right now? You can't quantify that. But when you have Aaron Judge, who's been a DH a lot of this year and also just plays right field, he doesn't bring that level of a presence defensively to his team the way that Cal does. So I would say that would be something that I think people would really have to sit there and consider to have those odds change if they were going to give it to Cal Raleigh. And I think it's all warranted. It's just, will people actually sit there and cast the vote with Cal Raleigh's name next to it?
So I think
let's go beyond the numbers with this too, because if there's one number I'm looking at, yeah, we can look at the WAR number, Peter. If Cal gets to 63, I think that is his biggest asset, because that's him holding something over Aaron Judge in that moment, something that Aaron Judge has always had, which is the home run lead and that number next to his name, and the fact he's breaking Yankee records as well of inner circle Hall of Famers, which is great in his own right. But if Cal has 63, I think that really helps him out. But let's throw the numbers out here for a second. What if we just talk about the impact you said, Lau, that Cal makes on Mariners pitchers, but instead of just looking at WAR numbers from this year, how about we talk about Brian Wu? How good is Brian Wu currently if Cal Raleigh is not his catcher? Because what happened last year? Peter, I don't know if we've told you this story before. If you've heard it before, we'll tell it to all your listeners here on the JB Show. Last year in Boston, the Mariners were on their previous stop in Tampa, I believe, right, Lau? Tampa Bay. Brian Wu goes like 3 and change. His stuff looks good early. He has this little nagging injury that causes him to leave the game, and he's out. They're in Boston. Cal sits Brian Wu down, and he says, dude, you're way too good. You need to figure it the fuck out. You need to find a way to prepare differently. You need to really set your mind to being the best version of yourself. And guess what? People pitch through things all the time. That's what we do. We're baseball players. We get beat up, and you just have to find a way to get through it. What does Brian Wu do since then? Since that point, Brian Wu's been a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball. If Cal doesn't sit Brian Wu down in that moment and tell him to essentially figure it out, I don't know. I don't think Brian Wu's as good as he is right now. I frankly don't think so, because that is the leader that kind of Cal is, and there's no number that's going to back that up. We're not going to just add Brian Wu's WAR onto Cal's.
Should we? Is that fair?
I'm down. Let's do it.
I mean, that's basically when Wu's absolute dominance started, because a lot of 24 early on, it was he goes 3-4 innings, looks dominant, and then leaves with some minor injury, skips a start, comes back, rinse and repeat a couple times before Cal sat him down and talked to him. And since then, Wu's gone 6+ all but one time this year. Last year in the final 10-12 starts of the year, he absolutely shoved. It's since that conversation when Woo's whole last season and a half turned around. TJ's right. Like Cal has a lot to do with that. So you can't quantify that, but I think it's a big deal considering Brian Woo's been the ace of the staff this year, and they're not where they're at right now without him.
I love that breakdown from the two of you. And that was a big reason why I wanted to talk to you guys on the show. And another reason why the Marine Layer pod has to be a part of your listening, repertoire on podcasts if you are a Mariners fan, because these guys bring the context behind the numbers. And I think it's so important. And I have absolutely no pushback on anything that you guys said, except if Aaron Judge wasn't on the Yankees, we'd be in trouble. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I think both of these two players are unbelievably important to the success of that team. You guys can reference Cal's position, and I totally agree with you. A defensive catcher is always going to be more important than a right fielder. That's absolutely true. But taking out a WRC plus of 200 out of that lineup, where he's hitting also close to 50 home runs right now, like he's hitting 326. Taking that bat out of the lineup, I've seen it with my own eyes. The Yankees look like a completely different bunch. I think about when Aaron Judge hit his toe in Dodger Stadium and went out. Like the Yankees were a 500 ball club barely. Whenever he's out of the lineup, there's a reason that a lot of people thought he might need surgery on his arm, but he's playing through it and basically throwing the ball in with his left hand because they need his bat in the lineup if they have any chance. So that would be my only pushback would be, yes, Cal is unbelievably important, maybe more so just because he is a catcher, but that shouldn't diminish how important Aaron Judge is to the New York Yankees. You guys said it yourself. He's the best hitter of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody has put up these numbers since Barry Bonds. Where did the Giants go without Barry Bonds? Were they even talking about his defense? Like, not particularly because the bat was so unbelievably prolific. But there's a reason this is a good debate, is because Cal's bat is also unbelievable. He just hit the most home runs by a switch hitter ever. And he's a catcher. And this debate, a lot of people, I assume you guys see this as, I'm a Yankee fan, you guys are a Mariners fan, so you see how lethal the replies could be back and forth to people who believe on one side. I wish, and this will never happen because it's social media, this is so much fun to talk about this debate. Like, this is, it's more than, oh, well, this guy just has a slightly higher WRC plus, or this guy has a higher batting average or something like that. Like, this is a real talk about positional importance, how important they are to a team, division races included. The Mariners are right here. What is Cal going to do to get them over the top? Cal's setting records. Aaron Judge just set the home run record last year. Like, this debate is incredible, and I wish we could have conversations like the one we're having right now sprawled out over the internet instead of what's happening right now.
Your everlasting journey to try to get people on social media and baseball Twitter to just be friends and figure it out. I'm sure one day it'll happen.
No, probably not. Let's talk. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just to your point, though, it's absolutely a fun conversation because if Cal Raleigh was having more of a typical Cal Raleigh season, which is great in its own right, don't get me wrong, where he hit 30 to 35 homers, hit about 220, WRC plus in the 120s, and played good defense. Look, he's still the best catcher in baseball with that. But we're not talking about him next to Aaron Judge. We're not talking about him as an MVP. So, yeah, this is incredibly fun for us. And we understand Cal's going up against an absolute behemoth in this conversation. Maybe the best hitter of our generation. Maybe when it's all said and done, the best right-handed hitter to ever play the game. It is an absolute behemoth he is going up against. And you know what? That's really fun for us to have that conversation to say, hey, New York, hey, East Coast media, hey, East Coast fans, look at this guy we've got in our little corner of the Pacific Northwest, some dude by the name of Big Dumper pushing for the most valuable player. Like, it's so fun.
And he's gone from this season being a fan favorite to putting himself in Mariners history next to A-Rod, Griffey, Alex Rodriguez. Oh, I said Alex Rodriguez. A-Rod, Griffey, Edgar Martinez, Felix, Randy Johnson.
Yeah. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good
pretty good jump.
Yeah, pretty solid. And I will say too, it's Cal's breaking records. He's going up against Griffey and all that. Like Aaron Judge just passed Joe DiMaggio for fourth all time on the Yankees all-time home run list. That means he has the most home runs by any right-handed hitter in Yankees history. Like these two, this is incredible what we're watching.
Yeah.
You know what's really too bad? That one of these guys just for 1 year isn't in the National League. Because look,
I
love
know.
Shohei.
Well,
Love Shohei. And you could ramble about him for podcast after podcast if you wanted to. That being said, I think if these guys were in separate leagues, both of them would be winning the MVP this year.
I think so. But then I watched Shohei Ohtani 5-inning no-hit the Phillies and hit his
Uh,
50th home run on that day. And I think to myself, I don't know.
That's a good point. He's now back to pitching. Yeah, I don't know either. He's incredible
either.
too.
But these three, and Bobby Wood Jr. deserves a ton of praise too. But to wrap with you guys, I really want to dive into the race for the rest of the year. Who's going to win the American League West? The Mariners, the Astros, the Rangers. The Astros and Rangers are playing each other right now, and we're recording on Wednesday before the final game of that series. Where the Astros have won the first two, and Texas is kind of starting to falter, it seems like. But the thing is, like, I just can't count out the Rangers yet. And I assume you guys feel a similar way, but I'm really curious both of your guys' perspectives on your rivals. TJ, we'll start with you with the Astros, and then Lyle, I want to hear what your thoughts are on the Rangers.
The Astros present a bigger threat, mostly because of what they can throw out in the rotation. There's not really much else left because of injuries, like Paredes going out and Hader's out, and all these other guys, the guys they've lost in the rotation.
Saw what happened with
Yordan as well. This is a shell of a Houston Astros team. And the Mariners have played them accordingly. The two teams have split the series evenly this season. That's why this series this weekend is so important, because whoever wins it gets the tiebreaker if these two teams are going to end up locked at the end of the season. I still don't think they're better than the Mariners. I think the Mariners are better than the Astros. I think they're better than the Rangers. And I'm hoping this weekend on the road in Houston is going to reprove that fact, that with this version of the Mariners roster, which, by the way, they have not played the Astros with, these two teams have not played since July. Once they play here this upcoming weekend, I have a feeling that the Mariners roster completeness is going to expose the Astros' lack of talent and injury on the roster. So yeah, I don't know if I'm very worried about the Astros. The only thing the Astros have going for them is that they haven't lost the season series yet, and that they have a few more good players than the Texas Rangers do.
Lyle?
Yeah, and having to go up against Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez this weekend is a tall task. It always is. So I'm not going to sit here and act like that series is some pushover. For as down as the Astros have been, it's still a rotation that you have to take seriously. If you want to throw Javier into that too, same idea. But anyway, the Rangers side of it, dude, I have no idea how they've stuck around this long. I really don't. They don't have Seager, they don't have Semien, they don't have Evaldi, and you're running guys out there every night that are contributing. Like, first off, a couple of Mariners castoffs in Dylan Moore and Rowdy Tellez, who Dylan Moore somehow has found the absolute fountain of youth in the last 2-3 weeks since the Mariners let him go. When I kid you not, he was OPSing, not batting average, OPSing 130 against left-handed pitching for 3 straight months when the Mariners kept him on the roster to hit lefties. Now he's just found the fountain of youth in Texas. But you're throwing those guys out there. You're throwing guys like Michael Hellman out there. You're throwing a bunch of other names out there, and they keep hanging around. And they won that Mets series, and they had a really good stretch at the end of August and early September. You're right that now it feels like they're starting to fizzle off a bit, which maybe is par for the course, considering that they're just out of gas and they have too much star power on the shelf. Are they out of it? No, I don't think you can count them out till it's truly over. And they still have Jacob deGrom, and they still have Jack Leiter, and they still have a couple guys who can pitch. But it does feel like TJ's right. Houston's a team you have to take a lot more seriously, because the Rangers, unfortunately for them this year, have just had too many injuries at the wrong time, and it's hard to put out the best version of the Texas Rangers at this point in the year for what they've got.
So I want to hear both of your guys' confidence levels on a scale of 1 to 10, and I'm not going to ask about the playoffs because I feel like that's a 10. The betting odds would imply that the Mariners, it's a foregone conclusion that they are making the playoffs. I want the confidence meter on a scale 1 to 10 of winning this division. Lyle, we'll start with you.
So much of it boils down to that Astros series this weekend. It's going to be such a massive 3 games. It's funny. I'm gonna say 6.5 because we know the Mariners have struggled on the road throughout the second half of the year, and it's been a storyline. And Houston is not a place that's always been easy for them to play, and you're gonna get two really dominant arms. That being said, like so much has gone their way in the last couple weeks, and it really feels like they're hitting their best stride at the right time, and they're gonna have their alphas going in that series too. You're gonna get Wu, you're gonna get Gilbert, you're gonna get Kirby. So because of that and how much the Astros have had to go up against this year with injuries in their own right, yeah, I'll say 6.5, especially because if you take care of business, you get to go home and play the Rockies, where you would hope you'd build some cushion.
TJ?
I'm gonna say 6. So not too much different than Lyle. If they win, it matters. Let's say the Astros and Mariners each get a game this weekend. Whoever wins that rubber match is going to essentially swing the pendulum for the Mariners between 6 and 4 on the confidence scale, because that's going to essentially be the tiebreaker right there. Again, thankfully, the Mariners play the Rockies right after. Right after. So you would assume that's 3 games they can win right away, right as that series is over. That you would feel like give them a bit of a boost. But that tiebreaker, man, we've seen the tiebreaker go the Mariners wrong way too many times. Just look at last year. You want an example of a tiebreaker, Peter? The Mariners led the Royals in a game last year, 8-1 in the second inning last year. Royals come back and win the game. Guess whose tiebreaker the Mariners lost last year and missed the playoffs because of? Kansas City Royals. Tiebreakers are important.
Now, I will say too, just to add on one more thing, and I know Jack and Arm are going to get more into this later this week on the show, but if you want one more storyline, the Mariners, as we're sitting here recording, are 2 games back of the Detroit Tigers for the number 2 seed, and they have the tiebreaker. So it's a true 2 games. It's not like it's 3. There's still a world they're fighting for a bye here, which is pretty crazy considering where we were at 2 weeks ago, where it felt like they might miss the playoffs.
So now I want to ask confidence level, or not really confidence level, but more postseason expectations. Because you guys have seen what this team looks like when it's firing all cylinders, and you're getting hot at the perfect time. Is it World Series or bust? Is that a bad question? Because it's like the Mariners have never won a World Series. So to say the expectations are World Series or bust is probably being a little bit too optimistic. But at the same time, the American League is wide open and they look as good as any team. So I'm sure your own brains are doing the back and forth on this. Lyle, where are you at?
Man, you read us like a book. You're right. Not only have they never won a World Series, they've never been to a World Series. It feels like getting to an ALCS. And I know this sounds like total loser talk, but getting to an ALCS feels like a win in its own right. But you're right, man. When you have this rotation that has the ability to be the best in baseball when they're firing on all cylinders, and a lineup that's as good as they've had in 25 years, if they get in, expectations should be high. It should not, like, if they get swept out of the wild card round, that's a failure of a season. That much is for certain in my mind. But yeah, expectations should be high. I think they should have every expectation in a very, very, very weakened American League this year that they can match up with anybody. So am I going to say World Series or bust? No, but I think they should absolutely expect to win a series or two. I think they have every ability to win a couple series and get hot as the postseason rolls on. And I will say this, all the more reason it's so crucial to win the West. Please play at home. Please.
Yeah.
The way you played on the road gives everybody nightmares. And the way you played at home is, well, they went 3-3 out of the All-Star break in a home series to start the second half. Since then, they're 20-3 at home. 20-3. Please play at home. All your pitchers pitch so much better. You're more comfortable. You've got the crowd. You play better as a whole. Please play at home.
TJ, where are you at? Because Lyle used the term failure if, of course, they get swept in the wild card round, and deservedly so. And he also mentioned that it is fair to call the ALCS a win when you're talking about the history of the Seattle Mariners. But of course, the team is so damn good that you're probably thinking World Series or bust. So, what level is a success for this team in particular? Is it the ALCS? Is it getting to the World Series? Or in your mind, and it's okay to say so, is that like if we lose the World Series, it's a failure? Like that's okay to say.
I'm going to say it's ALCS or bust right now.
ALCS or bust. What
And
if
then
you
everything after there is house money. Because, again, they have never done it. Some people out there, some Mariner fans would like to set their expectations for the World Series, especially once you see the field and you see the path you would need to take to get there. Maybe, Peter, then our answer would change to this. But let's just say generally, looking at the picture of what it is right now. I think I would be happy making the championship series because that would have showed me the Mariners have taken a step forward in terms of where they're going to set the bar. We've seen this group make the DS, now make the CS, and if you're going to make the World Series, great. And Lyle said, yeah, it sounds like loser talk. Well, as we always say on our podcast, we're Mariners fans. We're all losers. So it suits us. It suits us perfectly. My confidence level of playing those teams in the East is not very high. Even though the Mariners have a better roster, the Mariners have not played those teams in the East well at all this season.
Yeah.
None of those three.
Lyle, do you share the same thing where it's like ALCS or bust? Is that fair?
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair expectation. Win one true playoff series, win the DS.
And the Mariners haven't played this version of the Blue Jays either. They played the Blue Jays earlier this season when the Blue Jays were in last place. And the last time they played them, Blue Jays swept them at home.
Oh yeah, it was a sweep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, looks like we'll see. Boys, thank you so much for coming on. Before you guys plug anything, any parting words? Like any Mariners fans listening that maybe haven't come across your stuff where you want to give them one last, like, here's a reason to come listen to our podcast, but even if you don't, this is what I think the Mariners are going to do. I don't know. Just any parting words?
Well, I hope we'd inform you more, but Lyle likes to say this a lot. Either you're welcome or we're sorry.
When you come, yeah.
At Marine Lair Pod, all social media channels. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. We are always available.
I would say let's just buckle up and embrace this thing. This is a fan base that is on the birth of just their second postseason appearance since 2001. My parting words on a more sentimental note would be, I know it's been an up and down roller coaster. Believe me, I've felt it plenty. TJ's felt it plenty. Mariners fans, you've all felt it plenty. But just to clinch a postseason spot, you haven't gotten to do that often. So let's embrace all the good and buckle up for what should hopefully be a really fun ride in October.
Well, boys, I really appreciate you guys coming on. Again, all the links to find these guys are in the episode description. Go follow them on social media. Go listen to the Marine Layer Pod. They do such a good job. Again, you can listen wherever you get your shows. Guys, thank you so much. Let me do a quick outro. Go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. I'm sure you guys love the merch too. We're all in our hats, our sweatshirts. You can go find yours in the episode description. The best way to support the Just Baseball show, again, is to rate and review 5 stars, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your shows, as well as liking and subscribing and commenting down below, on YouTube. And make sure to go check out these guys' show on YouTube. Again, Marine Layer Pod. For TJ, for Lyle, I'm Peter. We'll see you on Friday. And with that, thank you, everybody.